is widely considered one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time, and of course he is one of my favorites ever since I was a little kid. And this past WrestleMania season, The Rock brought out the final boss, a brand new character for us to enjoy. But where does the final boss rank on the all-time list of all of The Rock's gimmicks? Since today, May 2nd, is The Rock's birthday, I figured why not rank every single Rock gimmick in a tier list so we can truly determine which gimmick made The Rock the most electrifying man in all of entertainment. And the categories for this tier list are the People's Champion, Do You Smell It, Jabroni, It Doesn't Matter, and You Absolutely Suck. So I have all of The Rock's gimmicks that we all know, but I did add a couple more just to add a little bit more depth so I can explain just a little bit more about certain characters and why they are the way they are. Survivor Series 1996. I was a month old 28 years ago. It's hard to judge this one because this is his debut. He doesn't really have a gimmick yet. He's just known as the third generation superstar. Very athletic kid, but like just smiling all the time. Didn't have much substance. It's hard to judge this one because they didn't have a direction for him yet. And we've seen plenty of superstars that have had weird debuts and like not real characters. So I'm not going to judge this one too hard. You got to find your way first. For a debut match, Survivor Series, Madison Square Garden, that's a freaking dream. Rocky Maivia is going to go in Jabroni. But like I said, I'm going to add a couple. So now we're going into still Rocky Maivia, but this is Die Rocky Maivia. Only been there for 3 months, and people are already sick of him. He was the prototypical 1980s superhero, super babyface wrestler, smiling all the time. He might as well have just been Hulk Hogan. That might have worked in 1980, 1985, but we are entering 1997 now. The crowd wanted something different. They wanted something more gritty, something more grungy, and The Rock, Rocky Maivia for that time was not it. And people were rejecting him, and it's really crazy to think that fans were chanting for him to die. For that reason, this is going in You Absolutely Suck. Everybody was frustrated with him, including in the back, for jealous reasons. The fans were sick of him, but even Rocky Maivia was sick of his own gimmick because he was just so frustrated. He's like, dude, I'm out here smiling and acting like everything's okay while fans are literally booing me and flipping me off. Like, I'm not getting cheered, and I'm supposed to be this good guy. So it just didn't work, and everyone hated it. It was a rough time. Luckily, The Rock did have to take a couple months off due to injury, and they decided to finally turn him heel, which now we are entering Rocky Maivia in the Nation of Domination. And nobody really thought that this was going to go and turn into something or turn into what it was, but this was a career-defining change for Rocky Maivia. No one thought he was going to do anything of real substance. They just kind of wanted to keep him busy, give him something to do, but he really didn't have much time left. They were ready to get rid of him and send him off his way. And who knows, maybe if things worked out differently, we would have never gotten The Rock in general. But this turned out to be great. The Rock was clearly standing out, and he started to change his name instead of Rocky Maivia and was now calling himself The Rock. And being able to speak his mind and tell the fans what he truly thinks about them, it was a recipe for success. Joining the Nation of Domination is going to go in C, but it's like a C+. And now we're on to The Rock as the leader of Nation of Domination. The Rock was clearly entertaining. He stood out from the entire Nation of Domination faction. He kicked out Farouk and took over himself, leading the nation, becoming a multiple-time Intercontinental Champion. Super entertaining to the point where fans were really starting to cheer for him. It was almost too undeniable to boo this man. So he did eventually get kicked out, and he feuded with Mark Henry and D'Lo Brown for a little bit. But this was the start of the true rise of The Rock. Crazy to look back now, seeing how far he's come since that day that they kicked out Farouk and he became the leader of Domination. This is going in B because this was the trajectory of the career that he was destined to have. So like I said before, when he was kicked out, he was feuding with Mark Henry and D'Lo Brown for a little bit. He wasn't officially a good guy. He wasn't officially a babyface yet, but crazy turnaround from just a year prior. For a couple months leading into Survivor Series 1998, the crowd was getting ready to really cheer for him, and they wanted him as champion. Going into that tournament, in every match, the crowd was behind him. They wanted Rocky to be the guy. So this little stint leading up to this is going in B because the crowd was ready for it. They were ready to cheer for him, and they wanted to cheer for him, and they were ready for him to become WWF champion. And he did, but not the way the people wanted it. Like before, this was where everything had the People's Champion label on it, the People's Eyebrow, the People's Elbow, all this stuff. And on that very night, we got a second screw job at Survivor Series where Vince McMahon and The Rock teamed up and screwed over Mankind, and they turned all that gimmick of that what was becoming the People's Champion, and they turned it corporate. So we had the corporate eyebrow, he was the corporate champion, he had the corporate elbow, and it was everything the opposite of what the crowd wanted. But they needed a good heel to go into WrestleMania 15 and face Stone Cold Steve Austin for the WWE Championship, and that's exactly what The Rock did. So corporate Rock is getting a B plus 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 plus. I can't put him an A because of what's coming soon. But if this was as far as his career got, in a span of 2 years, what a run. And at this time, he became the youngest WWF Championship at 26 years old, I believe. I believe it was 26. So hell of a run, hell of a career so far. And we were only getting started. So he goes into his feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania. He loses the title. They feud for a little bit more, and they have a rematch at Backlash, where The Rock lost again, coming out on Raw the very next night after Backlash and blaming Shane McMahon and the corporation for The Rock losing his championship twice. That very same night, the corporation kicked out The Rock, and this began the true rise of The Rock, the People's Champion. Now, I have this split into two sections because technically this 99 to like 02 run is straight babyface. It could technically be under the same gimmick, but it's really not. And I say this because even from 99 to 2000, I feel like The Rock is two different characters. Even though it's the same People's Champion, it's slightly different. The Rock early on still had his corporate mannerisms, but he was a babyface. So he was still dressing in the Versace clothes. He had the sunglasses. He had the sideburns. He was still talking very slow. He still had his theme song, which was the Do You Smell It one, which to me is my top two. It's one of my favorites. When it comes on in the gym, I'll walk around the gym like slowly. Like I got this little swagger on me. It just does something to me. I love the slower beat. I just love it. I think it's perfect. And I think it fit his character much more than honestly the other one, but to each their own. So he still had his mannerisms. He still had all that, but was now the People's Champion. And this was truly the rise of being the face of WWF at the time. So for this one, he's going in A, because when you heard that theme music, you knew you were about to verbally be assaulted by The Rock. This version of The Rock cut, if not my favorite, one of my favorite promos of all time, where he verbally assaulted Billy Gunn and killed his entire main event push. And if you've never seen that promo, please watch it. Type in The Rock promo on Billy Gunn Sunday Night Heat, and it's perfect. And it's the first time he ever drops the "it doesn't matter," and it's amazing. It makes me laugh to this day. It's perfect. Now, as we enter the new millennium, the year 2000, still the People's Champion, but there's just slight tweaks to it where he cut his sideburns off, so he had just the short sideburns. He still talked with a deep bass in his voice, but it was more entertaining than just verbal assault. But this version truly showed you that he can literally do it all. There is not a single thing he can't do. He's putting on great matches. He can verbally assault you. He can make you laugh. He can make you cry. This is the version of The Rock that truly was a superstar. The Rock made everything mainstream. This was, I believe, at least at the time, the most successful year WWF ever had in the year 2000. And without Stone Cold Steve Austin, this is the greatest version of The Rock, like hands down. I prefer certain things with the sideburns Rock, but overall, this is the best version. This literally has it all. He became a multiple-time WWF champion, and it's just like, that's the perfect version of The Rock. That is truly the epitome of The Rock. And it all culminated in a huge megastar match with The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 17. One of my favorite main events of all time. The very next night on Raw, they have a rematch in a cage match where Triple H comes out and helps Stone Cold. And then The Rock is suspended for a couple months, which really he was going to film his movie, The Scorpion King. So then in July of 2001, The Rock returns right in the middle of the invasion angle. And this is a very different version of The Rock that we've seen to know and love. The 1999 version had the Versace shirts, the sideburns, the very deep voice, the slow talking. 2000s Rock had many qualities of the same thing with the sideburn Rock. But near the end of the run, he stopped wearing the expensive shirts. He was kind of talking a little bit faster, but nothing crazy. But then in 2001, he came back. Instead of his hair being brushed back, he brushed it forward because I guess he was getting a receding hairline, which honestly, to me at the time, like it didn't look that weird. Like to me, him with hair, even the way it is. I mean, yeah, he had a big forehead, but like, I don't know. I never really thought it looked bad, but I don't know, whatever. But this Rock was completely different. A lighter voice, more entertaining Rock in terms of like trying to make people laugh and stuff like that. I feel like this was more of Dwayne Johnson's real life being put into a character. And I feel like we saw spurts of who he really is in terms like that. 2001, 2002 Rock is way different from 2000 Rock. He was much more athletic and a little bit leaner than what we were used to. So I feel like he was putting on better matches, but his promos weren't as good 2000 and 1999. They were more entertaining. He was more goofing off and making fun of Coach and stuff like that. Still cut great promos, don't get me wrong. When you look back at it now, 2000s Rock is just untouchable. Growing up, this version of The Rock, 2000, 2001, where he fought Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania 18, that was my favorite version of him for the longest time. It was my favorite theme song. That's The Rock that I grew up with, so there's clearly a nostalgia effect for that. Growing up and like really looking back on everything, this is not his best version. I still really like this version. I love the way he looks with the WCW title. Was putting on great matches and he was able to talk. His promos were just very different, and I feel like part of it was he wanted to show producers that he could do a bunch of different things and he could be funny, he could be entertaining, and maybe it'll help him get more roles. I don't know. But just that's what I think of now. But I still love that version. It's still a fun time. It's a B. So The Rock in that 2001, 2002 era, he would leave and come back kind of, and they knew he was going to go do another movie, and fans were really getting upset because The Rock was choosing Hollywood over WWF at the time, and people did not like that. People were not cool with that because we want to see The Rock. I felt the same way. I was young, but knowing that The Rock is going to leave for a while, fans start to turn on him like, you're really choosing Hollywood over us. That's messed up. And they truly turned on him at SummerSlam 2002 when The Rock fought Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar took the WWE Championship from him. And while it was cool to see The Rock with that version of the title, which I wish they kept for way longer, people were sick of him to where after the show was over, they were just so upset with him that The Rock cut a promo, basically just turned heel. So he left and comes back with one of the greatest heel gimmicks of all time. And I wish it was so much longer, but 2003 Hollywood Rock is one of the best gimmicks of all time. It's one of my favorite gimmicks he's ever done. It's so entertaining because he's just so obnoxious. It's like he was the movie star. He was the Hollywood guy. Too good for everybody else. Like every place sucks. He just wants to be home. He had some of the best segments with the Hurricane, of all people. Like a weird, stupid gimmick where people were cheering for the Hurricane and just putting on fun matches with him. But there was only truly one thing left for him to do, and that was just to beat Stone Cold Steve Austin. So we got that final match between the two of them at WrestleMania 19 in a great match, one of my favorite matches. And then even got into a little feud with Goldberg after. This version is so good. One of the best themes ever, if not the best. Brought it back in 2024, 21 years later. Like, come on. Amazing. This is an A+. Like, I love this version. It's, I would probably put it here. I feel like that's the best way to put it. There's nothing wrong with this gimmick. Like the Rock concerts, the Sacramento concert is, to this day, cracks me up. It's so funny. It's perfect. You knew you were going to have a good time when you saw Hollywood Rock in 2003. If he was on the screen, magic was about to happen. I just wish it lasted longer, even if it was like a 6-month run. Now, it was very short-lived, but after Backlash to 2003, The Rock left to film Walking Tall, I believe. I actually really like Walking Tall. Just side note. I enjoy Walking Tall. It's one of my favorite movies he's ever done. Actually, it might be my favorite movie he's done. But he returned around WrestleMania season, about a month before WrestleMania 20, to team up with Mick Foley and the Rock and Sock Connection versus Evolution, which is really cool to see now because we actually did get The Rock versus Randy Orton, just not the way people wanted it. But at least we got something. So if it doesn't happen, which most likely it won't, at least we can hang our hats on that. I like the look of this version a lot because he had the tattoo. He added the chest piece after 2003 Rock, which I forgot to mention. So The Rock came back, Hollywood Rock, with the arm tattoo, kind of similar to mine. But then he left, came back, got the chest piece done, and a very rare sighting of The Rock with the brush forward hair and a goatee. And it's crazy to think now because when I was a kid and he came back, I was obviously really excited. But like part of me, I didn't say this because this wasn't like a phrase back then, but like, damn, like The Rock was low key, not washed, but it was just like, damn, like The Rock is old. Like it's crazy to see, like, you know, he's older. Like this is probably his last match. Looking back now, realizing The Rock was 31 at this time. The Rock had done everything possible, was like an 8 or 9-time world champion at 31 years old. That's like saying, imagine Austin Theory in 5 years' time being considered one of the greatest of all time. Like Mount Rushmore, it's Hulk Hogan, it's Stone Cold Steve Austin, John Cena, and Austin Theory. Like, that's the Mount Rushmore. It's crazy when you really put that into perspective. For example, the main event of WrestleMania 40 was Cody Rhodes, who's 37, 38, and Roman Reigns, who's almost 40. The Rock did so much in such a little time. It's truly crazy to think about. 31 years old, he could have literally gone another 8 years and been fine. It was cool for him to come back. I love his promo that he cut at WrestleMania 20. I'm going to put it in jabroni because it's not like it doesn't matter because he did elevate Evolution at the time. Him and Mick Foley really did help out Evolution, elevating Batista, elevating Randy Orton, who eventually, the very next year, were both in main event matches at WrestleMania 21. Pretty cool, but it's like a C- in terms of everything else because The Rock was only back on TV for like 2 episodes of Raw and WrestleMania. So like it wasn't that much. And it's not like he didn't even do anything the very next night on Raw. So there's not much to it, but I really like the look because it's just so unique. And then there was like a 2-year-ish span where we had these like random one-offs where I think in 2004 he came back like once or twice. And then once in like 2005, which we got another segment with him and Randy Orton, which I do like. But those comebacks weren't of real substance other than he fought Randy Orton and it didn't lead to anything. And then he came back the once with Eugene to kind of put Eugene over, like to make sure the fans are behind him. But other than that, like it really doesn't matter. He didn't really do much. It's just yay, he came back. It's always fun when he comes back, but nothing of substance here. And then we waited 7 long years. 2011, The Rock makes his historic return back to the WWE after being in Hollywood for 7 years. He only had like 1 or 2 via satellites. He came back for the Hall of Fame. Honestly, never thought he would come back to wrestle again. I remember coming home at an 8th grade basketball game. We got our asses whooped. I remember that. So on that Tuesday, we got our asses whooped. I was upset, but I got home and my dad was like, look at this. And The Rock came back, and I think I watched that video like 25 times. Just the pop. One of my favorite returns he's ever done, because it's just like, it was almost like you never thought it was going to happen again. That run itself, the 2011 run, like WrestleMania 27, setting up the match with John Cena. Very, very cool that he came back. I love that return promo he had. The confrontation of The Rock and John Cena is crazy to see, even to this day. Generations colliding, but like overall, the run itself is okay. It's a C. It's a cool start to what was to come, because now I'm going to split this up into 2012, WrestleMania 28's around the corner. Never before, never again. I feel like these are 2 different people, because The Rock was completely bald, shaved. When he came back near Survivor Series with the tag match with John Cena versus The Miz and R-Truth. Very, very cool time. Didn't think I was going to see The Rock ever wrestle again, let alone twice. His promos weren't as good. It was very PG at the time, even in 2011. Being able to set up that historic match with John Cena and just their run of where The Rock would be corny with his promos, and it was very catchphrase-like. I loved it at the time, but now growing up, you see like, all right, this is... I could see why people didn't like this. But when John Cena and The Rock were in the ring and going back and forth, it was tense. You could feel it, how they truly, really didn't like each other, which led to the once-in-a-lifetime, which was amazing. And like to this day, seeing it happen is crazy. Never ever thought that was going to happen. This is going to go in B for the 2012 version of The Rock, the WrestleMania 28 version of The Rock. And then the very next night on Raw, after WrestleMania 28, you know, he gave his props to John Cena. He thanked the crowd. He dropped one of his catchphrase rhymes of "One vision in mind, don't need no revamping. The Rock's going to be WWE champion," which is the next version of The Rock. We go to that late 2012, 2013. The Rock comes back, beats CM Punk after 434 days of misery. That's what The Rock called it. At the Royal Rumble. It was cool to see The Rock win the WWE Championship again, but to come back after a break, CM Punk had this historic run, was a very, very good champion. To come back and The Rock beats him first try, no problem. I could see why a lot of people were pissed off. I was happy at the time because I was just a huge Rock fan, blinded by how much I loved him. The Shield got involved with Roman Reigns, which is cool to think about now. To have a rematch at Elimination Chamber with CM Punk, and their promos, looking back at it, CM Punk kind of cooked The Rock, high key. But at the time, I was like, no, he did not. No, he didn't. The Rock is the GOAT. To then have twice in a lifetime at WrestleMania 29, like, it sucks that they ruined that once in a lifetime catchphrase, because I really do feel like that was truly once in a lifetime. That was a magical time in WWE. Everybody was talking about The Rock versus John Cena, but to do it again the very next year and not include CM Punk in a triple threat, they would have put on such a better match, especially knowing that The Rock got hurt at WrestleMania 29. CM Punk and John Cena could have carried that match, and it would have been totally fine. It is what it is, but this second run, looking at it now, it's not great. They debuted the new WWE title, which it's turned into now. It's kind of the same thing, just updated, which I hope they do change that one day. I thought that was going to be The Rock's last match. It wasn't that great, and they didn't have a good match, but it was just a finish fest because The Rock just couldn't do anything. He got hurt. Tore like his whole abdomen, which is crazy. So good for him for finishing the match. So post WrestleMania 29, The Rock would have a couple of one-offs here and there. Like he would come back for a random Raw. He would come back for a random SmackDown. Did appear at the next 3 WrestleManias though, which was cool. Apparently he was supposed to have a match with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 30. I don't know how true that is. And then he was supposed to have a match at WrestleMania 31 with Triple H, but that didn't work out either. To then, I'm not really sure what he was supposed to do at WrestleMania 32, but schedule never worked out where he could be cleared because of Hollywood and stuff like that. So he had his couple one-offs every now and again, which is great, but 99% of it was just, hi, I'm back. And while it's fun for The Rock to come back, I will always welcome him back. If there's nothing to get from it, then it's nothing great. So it's just like, it's better than the first one-off around because he came back more. I never thought we were going to see The Rock ever wrestle again. I thought he was done. I thought The Rock versus John Cena, WrestleMania 29, was going to be his last match. And shockingly to everybody else, I was very surprised too. Roman Reigns became who Roman Reigns is, and everybody was clamoring for Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania 39, 38, even 37. And then The Rock finally dropped that, where am I going to sit on January 1st of 2024? And he said the head of the table. A lot of people, including myself, was excited, but then you realize like, oh shit, what about Cody? And we all turned on The Rock. And what we got is one of his best characters he's ever done. I understand recency bias, but when you are able to pivot like that in the way that he can and the professional that he is. We could have gotten just a version of 2011 Rock again where it was just corny promos, you know, doing all the crowd work, you are an asshole. You are an asshole. Imagine getting that for 3 months. It would have gotten intense. They would have gotten some good stuff out of each other. And nobody ever thought that The Rock in 2024 could ever turn heel and people would actually boo him because he was just too big of a star, one of the richest men in Hollywood. Like, people want him to be president of the United States. People don't want to boo this man. And he slapped the shit out of Cody and turned heel and gave us one of the best characters he's ever done. He brought back the Versace shirts. He brought back his old 2003 Hollywood Rock. He walked slower. He got rid of all his catchphrases, which was very nice. And he was actually cutting promos, which is great because for a while it wasn't like that. Dropping F-bombs, basically killed the PG era. Comes back at WrestleMania 40, 11 years after WrestleMania 29 to wrestle in a tag match with Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Cody Rhodes. And legitimately puts on a banger match. Like, he looked great at 50 years old, which now 51. To then give us one of the most iconic main events in WrestleMania history, where John Cena came out, The Rock comes out, they get a face-to-face. I'm losing my fucking mind. To then The Undertaker returning, giving one of the loudest pops, the loudest pop I've ever been in. I was there. It was so loud. It was so insane. Undertaker's gong hit. I felt it through my body, and I almost collapsed because of how much I was screaming. I lost air so quickly that I almost dropped. Absolutely insane. Gave us an incredible two-night main event and an incredible story, and we are still in it. The final boss is not done. He's coming back for Cody Rhodes, and we're still going to get The Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania 41 most likely. But if it ended here, other than that very weird promo after WrestleMania 40, if it ended here, the final boss, it's going right there. It's intense. It's kind of scary because he's legitimately a boss in WWE. He brought back the expensive shirts, which is way more expensive now because he's worth almost $1 billion. To then change his theme and mix it into the Hollywood theme with the amazing entrances that he's had, some of his best work of his career. I wouldn't say promo-wise maybe, but as a whole character, the final boss is perfect. It's perfect for this, especially because nobody ever thought The Rock could pull this off because nobody thought they could boo The Rock. This man had me chanting for John Cena at WrestleMania 40. This man had me chanting for Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40. My favorite wrestler of all time, and I'm booing him. Obviously, I was happy to see him. Like, I loved every second of it. For crowd purposes of what you're supposed to do, this man got me to cheer against him when I never thought I would ever see him perform. I never thought I would ever see him and John Cena in the same ring, and I got every penny out of it. So for that alone, thank you. If he ever happens to somehow see this video, which he won't, but it's fine. But thank you, Rocky. The final boss is one of my favorite characters. It's awesome. Nobody does it like The Rock. And that is exactly why The Rock is the most electrifying man in all of entertainment and why he's still the people's champion and now he's the final boss. So in my opinion, that's what I think of his gimmicks and where they rank all time on his list of gimmicks. But let me know what you think down below because I'm sure everybody has their favorite version of The Rock and it's always cool to see the difference in opinions. Like my favorite theme song he's had is the Hollywood theme and the Do You Smell It theme. What's your favorite version of The Rock and tell me why. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Happy birthday, Rocky, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.